back. I'm Neil Charon, and this is the Gideon Star Chronicler. Mentioned to you before, Star Wars is back, in my opinion, between The Mandalorian, Baby Yoda. Gotta love Baby Yoda. Where's my Baby Yoda merch? What's going on? But the truth is with Rise of Skywalker, I liked it. Last Jedi, didn't like it. Mandalorian, loving it. Star Wars is back for me. And the truth is that I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Star Wars itself and kind of where Disney went wrong and what it means to storytelling. I think JJ Abrams tried to tap into this a little bit. I started reading a few articles where he started referencing things like with Carrie Fisher's passing, sort of these coincidences that weren't coincidences, and maybe even said something like the Force is guiding him, something like that. But it was he seemed to be a little bit more spiritual, and maybe Carrie. I mean, death does tend to make us become more in touch with the spiritual, because he was very close. He really did admire Carrie, and I think her passing actually did affect him. And this is part of storytelling. So George Lucas basically was kind of a wayward kid, I guess as much as you could be growing up in his era. He wasn't quite a rebel without a cause, but he seemed to be going nowhere. And I think he talks about that quite a bit himself, from my understanding of his youth. He didn't want to go into the hardware business with his dad. He liked taking pictures, but pretty much didn't know what he was going to do, and sort of coincidentally found this program, which he thought was a photography program, but it actually turned out to be a film program, and then he turned out he was pretty good at it. But that's not Star Wars. So what is Star Wars? It's the point where George Lucas recognized that he needed to get his life together, and that because life is precious and valuable. George Lucas liked to drag race, street race, liked fast cars, liked to go fast. Don't know the details. I actually one day hope he maybe gets very specific on how it happened, but he basically got into a bit of a mess where he kind of took his car down a ravine, I guess. It was kind of down the side of a mountain. And in this particular instance, his seatbelt failed. So his car rolled. And according to my understanding, if he had remained in the car the way that it got mashed up, he probably would be dead. If he wasn't somehow sort of broken up or may even have been paraplegic, he most likely the understanding was that he would be dead. But as the car rolled, his seatbelt somehow failed. Never failed before. He was wearing a seatbelt, and because the seatbelt failed, he was flung from the car. Now, some people say, well, he's a kid. Hey, when someone asks me, hey, you get into an accident and you're wearing a seatbelt, you say yes for insurance. Back then, it wasn't the law to wear your seatbelt, so it wasn't something to really lie about. That being said, I'm going to tell you, George says he was wearing it, and he recalls wearing it. That was something that he did, especially because he liked to drive fast. And I believe him. And so really, part of this story is the seatbelt failed. And in that failing, he was thrown free of the car, and that saved his life. And it's pretty amazing, don't you think? There was some force. There was some force that intervened. He believed. He even says he believes in God, but he does really believe that there was some force that intervened and saved his life. And that is Star Wars. That is why stormtroopers miss, because the Force has a hand in that. That is why the good guys win, because the Force has a hand in that. And for George, there's I wonder, I'll see if I can find it, and I'll put the link in the description. But there was a wonderful video that I found that describes a documentary that George was watching, where it was one of these esoteric artsy things, but the guy talked about a force, and the force was 2187 or something like that. I can't remember. I'll link the video so you guys can see it. But the truth is that that's inspired him. He goes, yes, there is a force. I know it. And what's missing from Disney Star Wars is that part. Someone that understands the spiritual connectedness, not just man versus machine, not just, connecting with the spiritual self, connecting with God, connecting with the God within. None of that. It's on a whole, there's a part missing where the people involved haven't had this, are not in tune with this experience. They've had it. They've had people in their life pass away. They've had people in their lives be affected by this, but they're not in tune with it. And that's the piece that's missing. The Jedi and the Force are what makes Star Wars unique in the science and sci-fi and sci-fantasy genre. And this is important. This is something that is missing. And what I want to tell you in terms of your own writing is that you need to also bring these unique parts of yourself to the table. Your perspective on the way that you look at the world. You're going to have to do a lot of work, inner work in yourself, to discover these things. But once you do that in work, I promise you it's rewarding, and it will be particularly rewarding to your writing. Okay, that's all for now. Have a great one. Remember, keep writing.